Okay, these examples are going to be long. I'm going to try to do as many of them as I can. Okay, example number 1. Basically, this right here, cosine is less than 0, is telling you that x is negative. Now, what is this telling you? Well, first of all, it's telling you that y over x is a negative number, because clearly it says equals negative 1/3. So if x is negative, that means the bottom part of this fraction is negative. So that means y over x, if the whole thing is negative, that must mean the top part has to be positive, because a positive divided by a negative would give you a negative fraction. So if y is positive, or above the origin, if x is negative, we're to the left. So that basically means that all this information is telling me that I'm in quadrant 2. So I'm going to draw a quick quadrant 2 triangle. Now, I don't know exactly where I am in the second quadrant, so I'm just going to put it kind of in the middle. Now, if tangent is defined as opposite over adjacent, and the fraction is 1/3, the question is, which one is negative? Well, the adjacent, which is the x, would be negative here, because I'm in the second quadrant. So this is my angle of reference. Remember, you guys, your angles are always the ones in the triangle that are on the origin, in the center of the circle. So this would be my opposite from that angle, this would be my hypotenuse, and this would be my adjacent. My adjacent is the negative one, negative 3. My opposite is the positive one, because again, x is negative, y is positive. And then the hypotenuse we don't know. So we'll use our Pythagorean formula to find that hypotenuse. And remember, your hypotenusi are always positive. So when I take the square root of both sides, it's positive root 10. Okay, now what's the question? They want us to find two things. They want us to find the sine of theta, which is opposite over hypotenuse. In this case, that would be 1 over square root of 10. And if I multiply that by root 10 over root 10, I get the square root of 10 over the square root of 100, which is just 10. And they also want me to find the secant. Remember now, the secant is the reciprocal of the cosine. So if the cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, all I have to do is flip that upside down, which gives me negative root 10 over 3 for the secant. Okay. I'm going to do another one like that. Okay. The tangent is greater than 0, means that y over x is positive fraction. Now, if the sine equals a negative number, that means y is negative. So if y over x is positive and the top number y is negative, then what would the bottom have to be? Well, the x would also have to be negative, because you'd have a negative over a negative. The negatives would cancel, and then the whole fraction would be positive. So therefore, x is also negative. And so, if y is negative and x is negative, we are working in quadrant 3. So again, I don't know exactly where I am in the quadrant. I'm just going to draw just in the middle somewhere, a terminal side. Remember, the angle of reference is always the one oriented right here at the origin, in the center of your xy axes. Now, if sine is negative 2/9, remember, sine is defined as opposite over hypotenuse. So if I have this being 2/9, but it's negative, where do I put the negative? Well, since the hypotenuse has always positive, I can't put the negative on the 9. It has to be on the 2. So if I define this is my reference angle, always in the center of the circle, if this is my opposite, that must mean that my opposite is negative 2. My hypotenuse is 9. And so I'll have to find my adjacent, again, with Pythagorean math. So, let's see, leg squared plus, now I'm trying to find the horizontal side here, so I'm going to say that's x squared equals 9 squared, so that's 4 and 81. If I subtract 4 on both sides, I get 77. Now this time I have to think about if x is going to be positive or negative. So I'll put the plus or minus on there only for a moment to think about it. So, is x negative or positive here? Well, wait, I already figured out that x is negative. So yes, x has to be negative root 77. So that's my adjacent side value, negative root 77. All right, now I'm trying to figure out cosine and cotangent. So from all this information, what is the cosine? The cosine is my adjacent over my hypotenuse, which would be negative root 77 over 9. Now the cotangent is just the tangent upside down. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Or you could define cotangent as adjacent over opposite. So, well, what's the fastest way to do this? Adjacent over opposite, that's probably the fastest, so we don't really need tangent. We can just go to this one. Cotangent adjacent, negative root 77, over opposite, which is negative 2. And so the only thing we really have to do is cancel the negative signs, so we get positive root 77 over 2.